Hi guys, welcome back to the Knitting Expat Podcast. My name is Mina and this is episode 138. Today is Thursday the 30th of May and it's been a couple of weeks since I last recorded, so I really wanted to sit down and record. I will warn you, this is going to be a spinning heavy podcast episode. I will do all the knitting stuff up front and then it'll be all the spinning stuff and then just a bit of chit chat at the end. As you can tell, I have no show notes today, so we shall see how this goes. Hopefully I don't forget anything, but yeah, we'll just see how it goes. Hopefully I won't forget things. I will link shops and stuff that I mentioned down below. I probably won't do full show notes just because there's actually not that much to do show notes about, to be quite honest. Most of it is spinning, and but I do have a couple of knitting related yarny acquisitions, so I will link those shops down below, things that came in. Otherwise we're gonna jump right in. I will also link other videos that I've posted recently that might be relevant to some of the stuff we're talking about a bit later. So you can find me online as Mina Phillip on Ravelry. We have a podcast group for this podcast, which is the Knitting Expat Podcast, in the groups tab on Ravelry. That's a great place to go and see what's going on, join in on any knit-alongs and make-alongs that I'm hosting, and just a general place for some chit-chat. And then you can also find me on Instagram, where I am probably most active, as Knitting Expat on there. And yeah, obviously here on YouTube. So if you're new, thank you so much for checking me out. Like I said, this is a more spinning heavy episode, whereas some of my past episodes are probably more knitting heavy, which is typically how it goes. But there's a very specific reason why this is more spinning heavy, and I'll get to that a little bit later. Actually, there's two specific reasons why. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me today. Right, so let's do admin stuff right at the beginning. I don't think I've released any new patterns since the last time we spoke. I will be releasing a new pattern in a few days, which is the next installment for the Minilicious Pattern Club. And I believe, if not at the beginning of June, sometime in the first couple of weeks of June, I will be publishing all of the patterns from the Season Sock Club as individual downloads as well. So you can purchase those sock patterns from the Season Sock Club as individual patterns if you didn't want to buy all of them as part of the club ebook. I believe that's right. I'm pretty sure I said I was going to publish those in June. I'll double check that, but those will be coming soon as well. Trying to think what the other admin stuff is. Oh, we have some knit-alongs and make-alongs going on in the group. I am co-hosting the spin and make-along with Grace of Babel's Travelling Yarns, and we both have threads up in our group, so you can cross-post in both or just one or wherever you'd like. And it's a spin-along. Originally it was going to be split into two parts. We'd have the spinning segment and the making segment, but then I realised it makes no sense to separate them. It might as well just all be together. So the spin and make along is now, you can enter your spinning finished objects and your making finished objects in both of our groups, and I have edited the description in the group, in the specific threads, so you can see now there that that's been changed. But so you can cast on your hand spun if you want to get going with it. And if you're not a spinner but you want to take part, you can still take part in the making aspect of the make along, but you just have to use hand spun, whether it's been gifted or you want it in a giveaway or you bought it yourself. And Grace has a really good list in her group of lots of different shops that sell hand spun. So and if you do know of any others, feel free to head on over to her group and add them to that thread in her group. I will link her group below as well. Other knit-alongs that I'm hosting, obviously we've got the Minilicious Pattern Club, so that's currently going, and if you want to take part in that, you can find a link to the ebook below. And like I said, the second pattern's coming out soon, so the bonus patterns of it you already have, and the first pattern was released at the beginning of May, and we have 3 more patterns coming. The next one's coming at the beginning of June, and then what was the other thing? So that's going on. The Season Sock Club, the actual knit-along aspect of that club, is still going on. I'm going to let that run into like the first or second week of June, and then I'm going to close that thread, the finished objects thread, and I'm going to draw prizes for that. still need to sift through my prize spin and pull out things to use for prizes. There we go, words. And then the other knit along we have going on right now is a sweater cowl. I say knit along, but you can crochet as well. I know there's a couple of people crocheting sweaters in that knit along, and that's absolutely fine. Cardigans also count, cardigans or pullovers. I kind of use the word sweater as like a catch-all for both cardigans and pullovers. But so you can enter either, and it doesn't be whatever size you want, adult, child, whatever. That's just because I'm designing a fair few pullovers and sweaters this year, so I thought it would be fun to do a bit of a sweater knit along together. And that's going to run until towards the end of the year. Okay, so I think that's most of the admin stuff sorted. The way I'm going to do this today, like I said, I'm going to do the spinning, finished objects, works in progress, acquisitions. Sorry, did I say spinning? I meant to say knitting. Knitting, finished objects, works in progress, acquisitions first, and then we're going to do spinning, finished objects, and works in progress. I don't have any spinning acquisitions to show. I did do a fibre haul recently on the channel, so if you're interested in some of the spinning stuff I've acquired lately, you can check that out. Otherwise, yeah, let's just jump right in. So, finished objects, I don't actually have that much, which is very surprising, although maybe not when you see the spinning segment, if you stay tuned for that. So first up, I have this little pinwheel square, which, if you're not aware, this is a square from a Pinwheel Scrap Blanket, which is a design of mine on Ravelry, and the design is written for fingering weight. What I'm doing here is I'm holding fingering weight held double to make it a DK worsted weight, and then I'm also using DK worsted scraps as well in here, as well as fingering weight. These are all fingering weight held double, and yeah, so all I've done is I've reduced the number of stitches that I cast on, so I only cast on 20, and follow the pattern exactly the same way. And I use slightly larger needles, so I use 4mm needles. I think the original pattern calls for 30 stitches cast on and a 3mm needle, and so I use 4mm needle and 20 stitches cast on, and it gives me a slightly smaller but comparable sized square. And so I'm doing this blanket. I did one originally in fingering weight, which I gifted to my mum, and this one is going to be for Layla, my little girl. So yeah, if you're new, you might not know that I have a 2-year-old little girl called Layla, and she's at nursery today, so I'm able to record this with some peace and quiet. And yeah, so that's one. I hesitate to call this a finished object, but the square is finished, the blanket is a work in progress. The second finished object is this pair of socks. And so this is knit out of West Yorkshire Spinners in the Mallard colourway. So West Yorkshire Spinners do these ranges of self-striping sock yarns, and this was from their birds collection, so it's like a mallard duck. And the cuffs is just some Patterns Croy in Gentry grey. These are going to be for my dad at some point. I'll put them in the gift pile, but these are earmarked for him. There is, it's just a wool nylon blend, 75-25. It's a good workhorse yarn. It reminds me a lot of things like Regia and Opal. It's like that sort of scale. And yeah, basically my dad has blown through far too many of his pairs of merino socks. So I now refuse to knit him socks out of merino yarn because he just wears them too hard. So he's getting some more sturdy socks for this year. And that's it. That's my finished objects. That's all I have, which is weird for me with, you know, because I normally have more than this. But again, it will become clear why soon. My next work in progress, I showed you this last time, and I was just getting ready to pop in the heels, so I've done that now. The heels are popped in. This is another pair of socks. I typically knit my socks 2 at a time, and I knit my socks using either Chiaogus or High Sharps 2.25mm needles, and that's the same for the previous pair, unless I say otherwise. This is yarn by Tiny Human Knits, and this is in her Folklore Colourway. She sent me this yarn to try out, and I really like it. It's really lovely, really soft. And she also sent some coordinating mini skeins, so I used one for the cuff, I used another one for the heel, which is the colour that matches closely with this pale stripe. It's not quite the same colour, but it's a close match. so it works there. And then I have this one to use for the toes. And I haven't decided if I'm going to be keeping these socks or gifting them. My gift pile of socks is looking a little bit, what's the word? Low. I normally by this time of the year would have knit a lot more socks than I have. We're 5 months into the year and I really haven't knit that many socks. Just been other things going on that have been taking priority, I guess. And my project bag is by Hammer. Really lovely waxed canvas zippered project bag. I absolutely love this one. It's in constant use and I frequently have to wrestle it away from Layla because she loves it too. She'll go up to it and be like, my bag. I'm like, no, not your bag, my bag. And my next work in progress, and this is one of the main reasons why I don't have a lot of other knitting to show you, is I finally cast on and started working on the Gansey sweater for Perry. And I showed just the beginnings of this when I recorded last. I was just on the ribbing at the bottom. It's a bottom up setting sleeve sweater design. And like I said, I'd only just cast it on last time when I sat down to record. And we are now almost at the underarm. It looks small because it's bunched up on the needles, but it should, fingers crossed, the maths all works out and the swatch did not lie. I hope the swatch didn't lie. It will stretch out to be the size I'm aiming for. This is supposed to be, like I said, it's supposed to be a 48-inch chest size garment. Like I said, it looks really small right now, but I think once I get to the sleeve separation, I'll be able to tell better how it's going to fit or what size it's going to be. And then if I'm still really concerned, I might actually block it on the needles. I'll put it on scrap yarn and block it just to check, just to make sure it's going to be okay. But I still have a couple of inches left to go, and then we will be ready to split for the sleeves. I had hoped to have had this done by now, like at that point by now, but it's okay. It is taking its time. It's not hard, it's not difficult. Like the pattern I have completely memorized, and I am alternating skeins, which you can see. Like you can't, it's weird, like I can see that on the camera. You see that slightly sort of striping effect there, but I can't really see it in person. Like it's not that obvious in person. It looks really obvious on camera, but it's really not that obvious in real life. The yarn is by Lolodidit. It's on her Guernsey sport base. And if you don't know, if you haven't been watching for a while, my husband's actually from Guernsey. So as soon as I saw her launch this base, I messaged Laura and I was like, I have to use this yarn to design a sweater for my husband because he's from Guernsey and it's just too perfect. And I've been meaning to design him a sweater for a long time. So we went through a whole process. I did a big old swatch and I sat down with him one day and we talked through it. And I laid out the options for him and he picked from the options I laid out. So this is what we ended up with. And the pattern's it's gonna be all over the body. And then for the sleeves, the idea I have at the moment is to have a panel with these two cables and the seed stitch either side. A panel of that coming down each sleeve, with the rest of the sleeve being in stockinette, I think. I haven't completely settled on that. Whether or not the rest of the sleeve will be in seed stitch or in stockinette, I'm not sure. I think if I do the rest of the sleeve in seed stitch, it might look more in keeping with the rest of the sweater. But we'll see. Oh, doorbell. Can't remember what I was saying, but basically I really wanted to use this yarn for this project. And the yarn is a tag, if I can find one. Sorry. Okay. It is 85% merino wool, 15% mulberry silk. It is non-superwash and the colour is Rumplestiltskin. Again, I went through Lauren's website and I picked out 3 sort of tonal colours for Perry to choose from. I picked a dark green, like a dark navy blue and a dark red. Those are 3 colours that I know he likes. They suit him really well and it goes with the rest of his wardrobe quite nicely. And he picked the green. He says he's got a lot of blue already with like jeans and stuff and doesn't want to wear blue and blue. And he's got a really nice red store-bought cabled jumper already. So which I actually used the measurements from that to plan out this sweater because he really likes how that one fits. And so we got him for green. And I really love it. I love this colour. And to be quite honest, if it ends up not fitting him, I'll just keep it. It'll be for me. It's a fairly unisex design, in fairness. Like I say, this is a sweater I'm designing for my husband, but it's unisex. There's no shaping to the body. There's no, you know, there's nothing particularly masculine about the design, in my opinion. It's fairly unisex. It's cables and seed stitch. Like, there's nothing particularly one way or the other gendered about it. Not that clothes are gendered in general, but anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, so that's where I'm at with this one. This is why I haven't been doing a lot of other knitting, because I've been focusing my knitting on this as much as possible. I do have other projects I want to cast on, but I have refrained from casting on anything until I get to the sleeve separation on this. Once I get to the point where I'm separating for the front, and I say sleeve separation, I mean separating for the armholes. Once I get to that point, then I will probably cast on something else as well. And I have a couple more pairs of socks I want to start, and yeah, so there's that. That's one of the reasons why I haven't been knitting that much, or much else. Okay, I'm trying to, it's really weird. I'm not used to recording without having show notes, at least not for podcasts, so I'm trying to figure out what I was going to do next. Right, acquisitions, that was it. I have a couple of knitting related acquisitions to share with you guys, so I wanted to go over that. The first is from, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Sionak Yarns. These are her details. I can get that up. I will link the shop below as well. Sionak Yarns. She is, if I'm getting this correctly, she's French but lives in Ireland, and she dyes lots of self-striping yarns, but she's a natural dyer, so these are all done using natural dyes. So this is all indigo. It's 4-ply sock, self-striping, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 100 grams, 400 meters, and it is absolutely beautiful. Like, honestly, I think people who dye yarn in general are like wizards with colour, but then those who do natural dyeing and are able to get like really lovely saturated tones, let alone self-striping, using natural dyes is just, I don't know how you do it. Genuinely amazes me. And she also sent me a little sample of palm-free Irish soap, handmade, so it's a handmade laundry bar, perfect for wool. And it smells beautiful. It's just wrapped in a bit of paper and twine. And she didn't have, there wasn't a ton of packaging around it specifically, because they're trying to be environmentally friendly and not having a bunch of excess packaging, which I think is great. And then the other thing I got in the mail is, so this was sent to me as a gift to try out and see how I liked it. And the second thing I was sent was from Kemper Junk Yarn. She sent it in one of her knitting and junk project bags, which is really cute. And I reached out to Kemper because I had an idea for a design and I thought her yarn would be perfect for it. And this is going to be part of the Minilicious Pattern Club. So the yarn came, and so I got a full skein of Hypatia, I think is the colourway name. It's on her Boss sock, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 400 yards in 100 grams. And it's this lovely sort of oatmeal-y beige colour with speckles, dark speckles throughout. And I actually have a skein of this in bulky, which I have a design in mind for, I just haven't got round to it yet. And then this is a set, 6 20-gram mini skeins, also on the Boss sock base, in the Warriors and Legends set. There's a couple of these different sets that are absolutely beautiful, and I really love this one. I love the bright colours in it, and I think they will go really well with the main colour. And so this is going to be one of the designs for the Minilicious Pattern Club. This is actually going to be the last one, because this is the only one I haven't actually knit up yet. So this will be the last one, and this will probably be one of the next things that goes on the needles. And yeah, so thank you to Kemper for sending me the yarn for that design, and thank you to Sophie from Sionak Yarns for sending me this beautiful skein. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing Sionak and it's actually pronounced differently. I'm so sorry. I've not heard that word said out loud, so I don't actually know. But yeah, it's really, really lovely. Okay, so that's the knitting section done. there's no more knitting to chat about. If that is all you are here for, thank you for joining me. And if you are interested in hearing about spinning and some of my thoughts on my spinning journey so far and some of the things that I have to show you since the last time I recorded, then by all means stick around. So, start with finished objects, shall we? So, as you may have gathered, this big bundle of yarn might be the reason why I haven't done a whole lot of knitting. I've been fairly inspired with my spinning of late, if this isn't enough to tell you. One of the reasons being, well, let's talk about one finished object first. I can't actually remember if I showed this to you on the last podcast or not, or if I'd even finished it at that point. But these skeins at the bottom, that are all in sort of the same colour family, is my sweater spin that kind of inspired the whole spin and make along to begin with. And we're going to take them out, but these ones at the bottom here. And I have a whole video where I go through and talk about my thoughts on the yarns that I spun and the details about each one. So you can find that on my channel. I think it's called the Spin and Make Along, or the Smile Vlog number 5, where I chat about my thoughts on this. And if you want to see more about how I spun them, you can watch the previous Spin and Make Along vlogs that show that. Then, so after those were finished, I spun these 4 little samples where I wanted to try out different plying techniques. So this one was a spiral ply. This one is a chain ply, but I was trying to spin it thin to see if I could get a fingering weight. And this one was out of Targi, so it's actually really bouncy. This one was a coarse spun, but I had real trouble with that, but I don't think my fibre prep was right for it. It was top, and I think you really need roving or a bat for that. And then I tried out a single ply as well. So these were interesting to try and just have a little play around. I needed a bit of a palette cleanser after that sweater spin being done. It was quite a lot, and yeah, so these was fun little bitty things to work on. I think each of them is around 10 to 15 grams. That's not a lot at all. Actually less than that, probably 10 grams or less. Then I'm trying to remember the order I did these. Okay, so then I made myself a blending board, which, if you're not familiar, a blending board is a board with some carding cloth on it, and you essentially use it to blend fibres together to make rolags, is typically what they're used for. You can also make other things with it, but traditionally they're used to make rolags. And so, but buying a blending board can be quite expensive. Like in the UK, the most common one that I can find is an Ashford blending board, and those cost around £130. It's quite a lot for just a bit of wood with a bit of like spiky fabric on it, in my opinion. I thought that was a fair amount, and a lot of them seem to be around that sort of price range, if not higher. Albeit they are much cheaper than buying a drum carder, which can cost upwards of several £100s. It was still a bit steep for, you know, for this being my hobby. It's not like I'm planning on selling rolags or anything like that, where it'd be like a business investment. I'm not saying that it has to be a business investment for you to buy one. I'm not saying that at all. But I looked into it and I found out that you could actually quite easily make one yourself. And I was able to buy the carding cloth, the 12 by 12 inch carding cloth, direct from Wingham Woolworks. And so I just staple gunned it to a chopping board, a really cheap bamboo chopping board, and I use a pet combing brush, one of the slicker brushes that has the same sort of tines on it as the carding cloth, to push down the fibres, and I just use a pair of old knitting needles to roll off the rolags. So I actually have, again, I have a video on my channel where I showed how I made my blending board, and I sort of broke down the costs a little bit, I think. I can't remember. Either way, what it boiled down to is it cost me about 45% less than the Ashford blending board to make it myself, and it would have been even cheaper if I didn't have to buy the staple gun. The staple gun will be useful for other projects as well and other things around the house that we need to do, but the staple gun costs like £13 in itself. The whole thing costs around 70 quid, and you know, if I didn't have to buy the staple gun, it would have been even less. So it would have been less than £60, which is crazy considering buying a blending board would have been £130, and the majority of the cost was actually just the carding cloth, which was in the UK, from the source that I could get it from, cost about £43. And in that video I do have links to a US source for getting carding cloth and a European one based out of the Netherlands. I was looking at getting the one from the Netherlands, and they actually had a kit where essentially you get all the parts other than the wooden board to stick the carding cloth on, which is still much cheaper than buying a fully assembled blending board yourself, which seems a bit odd. But shipping from the Netherlands to the UK meant it would end up costing more than if I just bought it from Wing and Woolworks and did it my own way. So like I said, you can go check out that video if you want to see more details and see some clips of me actually making it and putting it together and trying it out. But what I wanted to show you quickly was, this is what I spun from the very first set of rolags that I made in that video. It's just some natural fibres blended together. There were some mystery fibres from a mystery grab bag that I'd gotten as part of, I'd ordered a bunch of fibre, which I showed in that particular video as well, to use with the blending board to play around with. And I bought, one of the things that I bought was like a mystery grab bag of fibres, which came in little 25-gram bumps, which is the perfect size to play around with on a blending board. Like, you don't want 100 grams of loads of different types. You might do eventually, but I didn't to begin with. And so I did this as a kind of spiral ply sort of trial. I didn't do any weird coils or beehives or anything with it, but I did spiral ply it a little bit, so it's quite high twist. And it turned out to be, I got 45 grams, 94 yards or 86 meters. It's quite fine, but it's, that will focus. Is it focusing? I can't tell if it's focusing. Anyway, it turned out quite nice, and it was an interesting little experiment. I'm not sure what most of these are going to be, to be quite honest. It was just fun to play around with it. And so one of the other things you can do with a blending board is you can make some mini bats. And so with the first mini bat that I made, I did some more spiral plying. And I actually spun this one before I spun the rolags. And this one's a little bit more thick and thin when I spun the singles, so the spiral plying is shows up just that little bit more. There you go. So that was quite fun. And then I had some other rolags that I'd spun up, that I'd made up, and then what I did was I'd made a roll log, which is essentially, instead of rolling off the rolags, and like, so one blending board full would make about 3 full rolags. So instead of doing that, you just roll off the whole board as one, and then you spin from the end. So it's like a rolled bat essentially, and then you just spin from the end of it. I have one to show you in a minute, so you'll see what I mean. So what I did was I spun the roll log and then plied it with the spun rolags, and I did another spiral ply. And this one you can really see a bit more, some of the spiraling that was going on. A couple of little coils in there as well. It's just really fun. It's a fun technique that I just enjoyed doing right now, and I've been enjoying exploring some of the possibilities with spiral plying. So these were some of my very first things that I made on the blending board, which is really fun. Then what did I do next? I think next I spun this. This was something I'd actually started prepping before I made the blending board. This was the last bit of fibre I had left from my fibre share package. It was just a braid of 100% non-superwash merino roving, and I kind of broke it up and forced, it was kettle dyed, so I broke up the fibres and put them in colour order into kind of like forcing it into a gradient, and you can kind of see how that worked out here. It was really fun, and I've done a separate video for this, so again you can go check that out on the channel. It was the Sedona colourway, and 100 grams, 193 yards, 176 meters. This was actually dyed by my fibre share partner, so she doesn't actually sell her fibre at the moment, so unfortunately you can't buy it, but it is beautiful. And I'm not sure what this is going to be at the moment. With the yardage that it has, it will probably make a really nice cowl or a hat or something, but I haven't decided what it will be. Then I spun up this little beast of a skein. So again, this was out of some rolags that I'd made, and I have another separate video about this as well. also on the channel, which is live right now. It's actually really cute, this one. There's a bit in it where I'm spinning. What I did was actually recently is I brought my spinning wheel upstairs into the living room. This has been good for two things. One, it doesn't distract me when I'm trying to work at my desk. And two, I can actually spin when I'm hanging out with Perry and Layla and stuff, because Layla actually doesn't mind the spinning wheel. She doesn't, she listens when I tell her not to touch things, and she actually doesn't really do much in the way of getting in the way of it. Whereas with my knitting, if I pull my knitting out when she's around, she wants to constantly come and help me knit, which is fun and it's cute, but just means I'm not able to get anything done with the knitting. But with spinning, I can spin while she's chatting with me or she's playing, and I can still interact with her to a degree. If I need to, obviously I can stop, but she doesn't interfere with it as much as she does with my knitting. So I brought it upstairs, and that's another reason why I've been able to get more spinning done, is because it's been up here. I've been hanging out with family and things over the long weekend that we just had, and it actually just worked out really well. So I was spinning this whilst up here, and it was just really cute little bit of time lapse where I'm spinning, and you can just see Layla and Perry in the background having a nap on the sofa, and you can actually see Layla falling asleep. It's really cute. Anyway, so this, I won't go into much more detail about this because, like I said, I showed a lot of the process in that video. What I did was I spun the rolags end to end and chain plied it. So, oh, that's what I also did with this one. Sorry, I forgot to say I chain plied this at the end. So it's actually a 3-ply. So soft though. And the fibres that went into this one were a mix of Shetland and BFL, and the colours were all, again, mystery little bats, little bits in a grab bag that I got from Hilltop Cloud. So I have no idea what fibre content those were. But I spun them end to end and then chain plied it. And so this got me, I had 136 grams in the end, 204 yards, 186 meters. So quite a heavy weight. This one puffed up quite a bit when I washed it as well. It's definitely fingering weight in parts, but for the most part, I would say this is a probably a worsted weight. I haven't actually checked on the wraps per inch, but looking at it, it definitely is on the heavier side. But yeah, really happy with how this turned out. I was hoping for something thinner, but again, like I said, I was spinning with like Layla running around and family and stuff. I probably wasn't focused as much on making sure I was drafting as thinly as I could. Then next up, and again, I'm not going to talk in too much detail about these because I do have videos for these as well. I just haven't gotten around to uploading them yet. I decided, hey, wouldn't it be fun to spin with cat fur? Why not? So what I did was I brushed Hugo and Derek, and I made up some little rolags. I blended it with some merino because their fur is quite short, although not as short as like a traditional short hair cat. It's about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in staple length at best. And so I blended it with some merino and I spun up this little mini skein. It is 21 grams, 48 yards, 44 meters. So not a huge amount. I haven't actually washed it yet, so it still doesn't feel super soft. It definitely has a fuzzy halo. I am not sure if you're going to be able to see that halo at all or not. Maybe if I hold it up there you can see it against the background. Definitely has a fuzzy halo, which is probably from the cat hair. Actually it is, I can see. But yeah, it was a fun experience. I'm not sure I'll do it again. The cat fur had a tendency to come out in clumps because it wouldn't blend properly on the blending board because it was so short. But it was a fun experience. Like I said, I'm not sure I want to do that again, and I'm not entirely sure what this yarn will be. I might knit like a little cat toy out of it or something, but we'll see. And there's a video for that coming out soon. And then the next thing I have to show you is this bad boy. This is another attempt at spiral plying, and I absolutely loved doing this. It was so much fun, and actually even more so now I want to get a jumbo bobbin for my jumbo flyer and bobbin for my wheel, because not only is it great for plying large quantities of yarn, it's also great for art yarns. And I managed to do this on my standard flyer, but it was a struggle. I will tell you that, it was a struggle. There are certain parts of it where I had to stop and manually feed it through to kind of like push it through to get it onto the bobbin, which was fine, it was manageable, but it's not something I would necessarily want to do all the time. And I'll actually open this up to show you. I haven't washed this one yet either. This is Bantu yarn, was the dye of this. It was an art bat. It's by Bantu yarn. It was the blue spruce bat, spiral plied with a lace weight grey yarn that I had in my stash. It was 123 grams, 192 yards, 175 meters, so quite chunky. And yeah, so you can see some of the crazy spiral plying going on throughout there. It was really fun. Like I said, I have a separate video showing how I spun this. It's mostly a music video, but you can see the process in there as well. It was just so much fun. Like I said, I haven't washed this yet. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to use this for. I've said in the past that I'm not interested in weaving, and when I said that, what I was talking about was weaving fabric to make clothes or to make like scarves and stuff. But I do like the idea of weaving for like wall hangings and stuff, because I think that's quite fun and it allows for some artistic creativity, I feel. Not that weaving for cloth doesn't, it's just not something I'm particularly interested in doing. But I am interested in weaving for like wall hangings and stuff. I think that could be quite nice. It would make nice gifts and things like that. So that's probably what I will use this for at some point. I have an embroidery hoop amongst my stuff downstairs, and I've seen who's it, Kalisha from the Crafty Monday, who has the Crafty Monday craft cast on YouTube, and she did some circular weaving using embroidery hoops. So I think that might be quite fun, and I might be able to use this for that. And then what else have I got to show you? Yes, so I had an idea for something I wanted to try out, and no, it was something I'll show you their fibre in a second, but I had some fibre that I wanted to blend up and make rolags with, and I'd gotten some mulberry silk noil to play around with, and I wasn't sure how it was going to look, if it was going to be too textured in the finished yarn compared to what I was hoping to get. And so I did up some little sample rolags with, again, some mystery fibres that I had, and those little mystery fibres had some sari silk in it already, so I knew it was going to be quite textured, but I just wanted to see what the silk noil would do to it. And the silk noil is all the white bits in there. And yes, it definitely came out quite lumpy bumpy, which is fine, like I really don't mind. I just knew then that it wasn't going to be what I wanted for the other project. So this again is just a little sample. I am filming the process of working this other project. So I've prepped the fibre, I'll show you that in a bit, but I haven't spun it up yet. So then I did show a bit of this in that video as well. And then another thing, and I just did this morning, one of the things that I'd gotten in the fibre that I bought when I decided to make the blending board to play around with was a mixed bag of carded slivers from World of Wool, and their card is essentially roving, it's Corriedale roving, and they have a set like a colour range called the Galaxy Melange or something like that. It was just basically a heathered versions of the Corriedale colours that they have. So they got a bit of like black through them, and I pulled out 6 of the colours and decided to make a rainbow. And I had some white Corriedale, so I laid down a base of white Corriedale, and then I did the colours on top, and I also sprinkled in some mulberry silk noil because I thought, why not? And I did what I did, instead of doing my usual 4 rolags off of the blending board, I just did 2, and then spun them 1 on each bobbin, and then plied them together to get a 2-ply where the colours for the most part lined up quite well. And I actually really like how this turned out. It was really quite cute, and the purpose of this for me was to practice long draw, and I did pretty well. I think I spun most of this using the long draw drafting method, and a mix between supported and unsupported long draw. I mean, there was always an element of like keeping a finger close to the yarn that was near the orifice to catch it in case it broke, or like to help draw out any thick bits. I might do a separate video on how I do long draw if anyone's interested. I'm not an expert, this is just how I found it to be useful to do it, and I find rolags are like one of the best preps for working long draw. It just works really well for me. So yeah, if you guys are interested, I might do a separate video on how to spin long draw using rolags. or just in general. So yeah, I really love how this turned out, and I think this would be so fun in a weaving. Yeah, so this one, actually, I can give you some stats on this one. It's 37 grams, and I got, this is pre-washing because I only spun this today, 86 yards or 78 meters. So cute little sample. I really actually love how this has turned out. I'd like to do a larger version of this with the silk noil in it, because I feel like it has a really fun texture, and it's definitely quite lofty because of the woolen style draft. So yeah, these are my recent finished spinning projects. I don't think I can actually fit them all back in there right now. So I've been busy with my blending board, as you can probably tell. So as for spinning works in progress, I have one active work in progress. I have finished the first bobbin, and again I have a video going live sometime this week. Might already be up, might not be up yet by the time this video goes live, on how I blended up these rolags, and the rolags are these ones. It might be easier if I just show you one or two together. So I was sort of inspired, like I said, I've done a video on how I prepared these rolags. I'm not showing the spinning, but just how I prepped the rolags. I was inspired by a photo I saw on Instagram of like a field of poppies and daisies. Like it was like white and red flowers in the green grass with blue sky. It was really lovely, and so that's kind of where the inspiration for this came from. And I added a yellow at the top to represent the sun, even though obviously the sun wasn't in the picture. It was just my interpretation, and I like the added colour that the yellow gives at the top. I kind of feel like without it, it looks a little bit but with the yellow it kind of just adds that pop that it needs. So most of this is merino. There's some Polworth silk, there's some mystery, I think there's some mulberry silk in there as well, there's some other fibres, but yeah, it's just really fun. And there is white blended in throughout. This particular rolag doesn't show it on the outside, but there is white blended in throughout to represent the white flowers as well. And in the sky portion it's representing clouds. So anyway, it was my interpretation of a photo that I saw that I found quite inspiring. So that's these ones. And like I said, I've spun up the first bobbin. I'm going to spin up the second bobbin and then ply them together. My aim was to get a fingering weight or try and maximize yardage, but looking at my bobbin, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I will get a fingering weight at the end if I can spin this as fine as I spun this, but I'm not sure in terms of final yardage, so we shall see. Then what else have I been doing? I have been busy with my blending board. This bag is full of fibre that I've been prepping, so it's kind of going to be in reverse order because the last thing I prepped is on top. But so this is what I was testing out the silk noil with for this, in this one, to see if it would work for this, and I decided against it. So I had this colour set from Spin Jones. It was in her Seafarer set, which, as you can see here, it kind of goes from this purple to like a pinky purple to blues into greens. And I wanted to spin this as one ply and then ply it with a solid colour to get like a mild effect. So the solid is a John Alban Textiles, the Harvest Hues in the Sycamore colourway. This lovely heathered sort of green colour. Their Harvest Hues colours are blended with Swapless, which is a black fleece sheet. So it adds that lovely sort of heatheriness to it. And I also blended in some what I think is alpaca or llama. Again, it was part of a grab bag, so I'm not entirely sure what it was, which was just white. So that adds in some extra bits there. So this is a rolog compared to a rolag. So this is a full blending board of fibre that I just rolled up and left in a rolled up form. And I will just spin from the end of it like that, like you would with a rolag. Just, it's basically a fat rolag. So I have 4 of those. So I have as much fibre, I have a little bit more fibre of this green prepped than I do of these, because I can always get more green, but I can't get more of this. So I didn't want to get to the applying portion and then run out of green before I ran out these colours. Yeah, but if I run out of this before the green, that's fine. And I blended these together, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I added some bamboo, white bamboo in as well when I was blending these together. So this is made up of, there's merino, there's alpaca, baby alpaca, and 2 types of silk, tussar silk and mulberry silk in there already in the fibre, and then I added some bamboo as well. So this is going to be a future spinning project. I am recording this one from beginning to end, so I've recorded all the prep, and now it's going to have to wait until I'm ready to spin it. Then this set of rolags was actually one of the first I ever did. This is actually 2 blending boards worth of fibre. At this point I wasn't sure how many rolags I could get off one blending board, so I was doing 3. But I can now do it in 4s. It just depends how much it's loaded. So this is about 60 grams of fibre here, and again, this was some mystery stuff. I think it's mostly merinos that I blended as kind of like a gradient. There were sort of 2 colours of this like reddish brown colour into this orangey brown. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. I might actually keep this and use it for a giveaway or something, or a prize for the Spin and Make Along. But I really liked it, and there is definitely some sari silk in one of these fibres, which adds a bit of fun colour. Then, when I was playing around with spinning, making up rolags for this, I also made up these rolags, which also have some silk noil in them. They're just natural coloured ones, and this is just 1 blending board's worth. This is about 30 grams, 35ish grams of fibre in this one. So actually what I might do is I might pair these together for a prize, because I think there's almost 100 grams there. What else? Oh, I shared these on Instagram, and the other night I was just inspired to make some rolags, and these are all merino, and I think there is some mulberry silk in these as well. I should really start writing down what I put in these rolags so I don't forget, because I'm making so many of them now and I don't know what I'm doing. But I can't remember what's in them. So again, these really reminded me of daffodils when they're laid out from the yellow going into the green, and these just reminded me of like autumn leaves, the leaves changing. I'm not going to open them up just because it took me a while to get them in there, but you get the gist. They're really, really fun. Each bag is about 140 grams or something, so there's a lot of fibre in these, and I will be spinning these. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with them. I'll probably split them and spin them as 2 plies, and there'll be a kind of self-striping type thing with the rolags, which I think is just really fun. Or another thing you could do with rolags that are blended like this as a gradient is you can actually then pull them apart and spin each colour together and then do a full gradient rather than what would end up being like a self-striping type of effect if you spun them end to end. Another idea, I might do that with one of these and see how that looks. And then finally, move that out of the way. And finally, I did a video, and I've already posted this video, where I showed how to make little mini bats on the blending board, because I sort of in the how I made my blending board video, I shared that I'd made a mini bat, and loads of you had asked to show how you can do that on a blending board because you hadn't realized you could. So I filmed a little video where I showed how I made these. And then what I'm thinking of doing, again, I had a couple of questions from people asking, how do you spin from a mini bat? Was kind of like how you would spin from a bat in general. But I remember when I wanted to spin my first bat, I remember thinking, I don't know where to begin. I don't know how to do this. And there are actually several ways that you can spin from a bat. So what I might do is I will probably do a separate video about how I would, different ways that you could spin from a bat. And I can show you with the different ones, different methods of spinning from bats, which might be fun for some people, might be informative, hopefully, for some people. But yeah, so I've just got these 5 here. There's about 150 grams here of fibre, so I'm not sure how I'm going to apply those yet, but I will make a decision when the time comes. And yeah, we are finally at the end of the spinning segment. I don't think I have anything else to add. I'm feeling like all talked out right now. I hope this podcast isn't going to be super long, but we had a couple of interruptions, so I don't have a good idea of how long this has been. Anyway, I feel like it's been a fair amount of talking. I should have said at the beginning that I do have a bit of a sore throat. It's been quite bad for the last couple of days, but I also didn't want to put off recording. So if I start to sound a bit hoarse, that's probably why. Probably shouldn't be recording, but hey, I'm here now. So let's just get on with it. In terms of weeks in review, what's been going on? I'm trying to remember what's been happening in the last couple of weeks. We babysat my nephew, Layla's cousin. We babysat Layla's cousin for a day a couple of weeks ago when my parents came down, and then I think the last time I talked to you guys, we were mentioning about Layla having nightmares and stuff, and thankfully the nightlight seems to be working for the most part. It seems to be helping. She doesn't wake up as often, and when she does, she doesn't like do that terrified screaming. She just kind of goes back to sleep on her own. Last week, bless her, she had conjunctivitis, so Perry was away all of last week. He left really early Monday morning, like 5:30. He was out the door, and then I got Layla up for the day, and her eyes were all puffy and like gunky and like horrible looking, and it wasn't actually that bad yet. So I actually had plans to meet up with a friend that day, so I had to cancel plans because I didn't want to take my infectious child to play with her child, because I didn't think she'd appreciate that very much, and instead opted to take her to the doctor and got some eye drops. And yeah, and then actually the next day, Tuesday morning, she looked even worse. I took a photo, I posted it on Instagram, and actually everyone who has seen that photo has been like, oh, that's really bad. And even at nursery, I took her into nursery. I was like, they're not gonna take her today. It's not looking like this, not with conjunctivitis. So I called them actually in the morning, fully prepared to keep her at home that day. And they were like, no, she can come in as long as she has the eye drops. She can come in. I was like, okay. And I took her in, and the teachers were all like, oh, that looks terrible. Ooh, that looks bad. And I was like, geez, this is pretty. I've never had conjunctivitis that I can remember, so I don't really know how bad it can get or how bad it is. I just knew it was pretty bad because she woke up Tuesday morning terrified because she couldn't open her eyes. They were glued shut. So once I cleaned her up though, she was so fine. She was happy. She was totally fine. Nothing fazed her. She seemed totally okay. She was happy when I dropped her off. And I just said to them, look, if she's being miserable, if she's not feeling well, just let me know. I'll come get her. But they didn't call me. She was absolutely fine. She had a great day, and I went to pick her up. Her eyes looked so much better that afternoon, and they were like, honestly, if it wasn't for how she looked, you never would have known there was anything wrong with her, because she was totally happy, dancing, playing all day. So that was good, and she progressively got better throughout the week. But it was just a bit tough because I was on my own, and there was only one night, I think it was the Tuesday night, that I ended up having to go in and help her when she woke up, because she was crying about her eyes. So I went in to clean up her eyes, and then she went back to sleep pretty quickly after that. So bless her, that's the only time since getting the nightlight that I've actually had to go back into her room once she was asleep. So yay. Sorry, it's been a rough couple of months since she turned 2 because of all these nightmares that she's been having, and like us constantly having to go in to help her through the night. And when you're used to your child sleeping through the night and then suddenly going back to broken nights, it's quite difficult. So and the lack of sleep was actually really affecting me a lot worse than it did when Layla was a baby. So that was new. Anyway, that's some general stuff. And then Perry got back at the weekend. We had a pretty relaxed weekend. It was quite nice. My mum and my brother were both away last weekend, so my dad came down to stay with us Sunday evening, and Monday we went out for lunch to like a local little, we went about half an hour away to a little village nearby, and when I had some lunch at one of the farm shops. It was a really lovely day. It was really nice for my dad to just have some, I guess, one-on-one time with him and Layla. Monday morning, because it was a bank holiday here, he got Layla up in the morning and just took her upstairs and was playing with her and stuff, and Perry and I just laid in bed for a little bit longer, and it was just really funny listening to them playing and having fun. And it's really nice for my dad because I don't think he gets as much attention from Layla anymore as he used to when she was a lot smaller. Yeah, especially if Perry and I are around. She tends to, not so much my dad, just anyone else who's around. She doesn't pay as much attention to them, which is why we really like it when my parents take her for the weekend, because we know that they are getting really good quality time with her without us around. Because if we're around, and especially if Perry's around, because she is such a daddy's girl, she won't let or a lot of the time she won't let other people do anything with her. She just wants her daddy to do it. So it gives us a break too. Anyway, that was a bit of a ramble. This is what happens when I don't have show notes. Otherwise, I don't think there's been much else going on. Like I said, a fair amount of spinning. Been trying to make progress on that sweater, and yeah, that's about it for now. Not sure what I've got planned now. What are we doing this weekend? I think I'm catching up with friends on Sunday, which would be really nice. I haven't seen them in a few months. And oh, I have some really fun news. I forget that I can tell you guys now because it's been formally announced. I'm going to be teaching later this year at another knitting festival, which I am so excited about, and this is now going to be right at the end of the episode, so hopefully those of you who have stuck through with this will enjoy this little bit of news. I'm going to be teaching at the Oslo Knitting Festival in September, so I'm so excited about that, and I was absolutely chuffed when I got the email back in February that they'd chosen to have my classes there. So yeah, I'm going to be teaching my 2 at a time sock class, my a German short row heel and mini heel flap class, and my pattern hacking class as well. So all the classes that I taught at Vogue this year, I'll be teaching at Oslo. So I'm really excited about that. I've never been to Norway, never been to Oslo, obviously, if I've never been to Norway. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm not sure yet if Perry and Layla are going to come with me. We need to figure it out a little bit closer to the time with flights and stuff to see if it makes sense for them to come. Otherwise, it'll be just me going. More than likely, it'll just be me going. Just that time of the year is very busy for us both, so I don't think it's going to work out for him to come as well. But yeah, I'm just really excited about it. It's my second knitting festival to teach at, and a new knitting festival I've never been to. So yeah, all in all, I'm really excited. If you are interested, I will have a link to their website below. I believe tickets go on sale next Friday, the 7th of June. And yeah, I'll definitely be posting about it on Instagram, so make sure you follow me over there if you don't already. And yeah, so I guess that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Definitely check back and subscribe, check back on this channel, or subscribe if you'd like to, because there's plenty more content coming your way. Like I said, I have about another 3 spinning videos already edited and just waiting to upload. I'm just trying to space them out over a couple of days so they're not just bombarding you with videos. And I have a couple more planned to record, as I explained earlier. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to the next few weeks. I think I'm just really inspired by spinning right now, which is why my focus is there. And I think that's mainly because of the blending board. And I'm just feeling very inspired by playing with colours and coming up with different combinations and just playing around with what I can do on the blending board. And I know once I get past the armholes on this sweater that I will be feeling a lot more inspired with my knitting as well. It's not that I'm not inspired with my knitting, I'm just holding myself back from casting on new things because I don't want to get distracted from getting this sweater done. I really want to get this sweater finished before the end of June so we can get it test knit and tech edited and hopefully have it ready to release sometime in the autumn. And I really want to give my testers a decent amount of time for this one because it is time consuming, and I don't want to make them have to knit it in 4 weeks because that's ridiculous and I don't like doing that to people. I appreciate anyone who volunteers to test knit for me, so I don't want to have to make them do something in an unreasonable amount of time. I mean, I usually take how long it takes me to knit something and double it for my testers. Because I know I'm a fast knitter. But typically that's how I come up with my test knitting deadlines and requirements, is how long did it take me to knit it, double it, and that's what I'll give to others, how long I'll give others to knit it, typically. So, especially for garments, I feel like with garments that's fair. Alright, I feel like I've been rambling for ages now. Thank you so much for joining me. I need to go make a cup of tea to soothe my throat, and I will be back again soon. Take care. Bye.